If you've been doing a lot of sitting, athletic activity, or hamstring exercises, chances are your hamstrings are tight. By utilizing the 90-90 hamstring mobility test, we can know for sure if they're tight or not. Problems with tight hamstrings are bad posture, poor balance, cramping, and the inability to pick up objects safely from the ground. In the following video, we'll be going over the 90-90 hamstring mobility test, how to prep your hamstrings for stretching with using different rolling techniques, and finally, some systematic mobility protocols to stretch the hamstrings in a way that will help you with your goals. To set up for the hamstring 90-90 mobility test, one should bring both legs to 90 degrees. Push your lower back against the ground. Stabilize behind the leg you're going to assess first, and see if you can extend 5 degrees below straight up and down. If you're finding yourself doing this, and you can't extend your leg 5 degrees below straight up and down, the test is positive, and foam rolling and stretching your hamstrings would be advantageous for you to do. So now that we've tested and determined we have tight hamstrings, it's time to roll the hamstrings first to prepare them to be statically stretched. So first you want to find a dense ball, which is going to work much better than a foam roller. We're going to put it underneath the hamstring muscle, and we want to roll back and forth about 1 inch per second or so. We want to make sure we don't lock the leg out like this. We always want to keep a small bend or even totally flexed like this to loosen up the hamstring. And then we want to make sure we don't mobilize or roll underneath the knee like this. We want to actually go just above the knee. And then we also want to make sure we don't sit directly on the ball. We want to roll just below the sit bone. Now, after we find a tight trigger point, we're going to hold for 30 to 60 seconds. And while we hold, we want to flex and extend. We're going to do 5 to 10 reps and then hold for 2 to 5 seconds for each rep. Now, remember, you have a center hamstring, which is what I'm on now. You have an inner hamstring, and you have an outer hamstring. So, when you roll the hamstrings, you want to be sure you go slow, find a tight spot, flex and extend, and make sure you get all three. So now that we've rolled the hamstrings, we're going to stretch the hamstrings with a dense band. So we are going to get set up here. We're going to bring one leg up, put the band around the middle of the foot. The other leg, you can fully extend it or you can bring it up like this. Either way works. Just make sure to keep your lower back pushed against the ground. Then you want to make sure you have a tiny bend in your knee. Don't lock it out. Then we're going to pull up until you feel a nice stretch. Now remember, you should feel a 5 or 6 of a stretch. The stretch should never be above a 7. So once we hold this for about 2 minutes, then we're going to tilt to the side about 10 degrees. When you tilt to the side, you're going to stretch your outer hamstring, which is called biceps femoris. And you want to make sure your lumbar spine is on the ground. All right, so we've assessed for hamstring tightness by using the 90-90 hamstring mobility test. We rolled the hamstrings to prep them for stretching, and then we used a static hamstring stretch to finish it off. All of these protocols you can use to implement into your mobility routine, and they will help you achieve your stretching and flexibility goals.